The Survivor specialists are back, and my final exit interview of Survivor 48 is going to be with the winner of the season, Kyle. Kyle played a very subtle yet dominant game, and he was able to use his secret alliance with Camila to get all the way to final three and then pull out the victory over Joe and Eva. I'm excited to dive into what he really felt were his winning moves in this game, if he felt that he could have beaten Camila at the end had she won fire, and how much Camila really did help him at that final tribal council. Also want to talk to him about the reaction from the fans every time he kept Joe in the game and what it was that made him believe that he could beat Joe and Eva, even as an audience we watched and said, Kyle, get it together. So we're going to be diving into all of that in just a couple of seconds here. But if you haven't checked out my interviews with Eva, Joe, Mitch, or Camila, make sure you go check all of those out and hear what their final thoughts on this season are. And for our final thoughts on the season, Will and I will be digging deeper into Survivor 48 tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be putting the season to bed. Next Wednesday night, Survivor 50 cast reaction. So make sure you come back and tune into that one. It's going to be great, and I can't wait to discuss what this cast is going to look like. But without further ado, let's talk to the winner of Survivor 48, Kyle. All right, I am here with the winner of Survivor 48, Kyle. Congratulations. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. Congrats to you guys for adding Tegwick to your team. Very pumped about that addition to the specialists. But to get back to me, I am feeling very, very happy and blessed and grateful.
I can understand why you won. You took the time to compliment us before you got into yourself and you just won $1 million. Like, is that what it was like for you all season? Were you just out there like, here's a compliment for you and for you and for you, and don't forget that here? Because I really appreciate that.
I appreciate it. I do think I like to think I had a good social game. But it was just fun. I think anybody who goes on reality TV has a big ego, so my friends aren't going to let me off on that one. But I do feel as if there was a lot of people to compliment on that island.
Well, and so first, I have to give you the thanks for winning one for the average guys. That means a lot to me. I needed that, especially watching this season. I'm looking at all these Herculean men, and I was very scared for a second. But when you're playing this game, obviously you're not going to get on Survivor if you're actually the most average person to ever play. So how did that kind of lean into your strategy as you're getting out there with these huge personalities?
Yeah, it's really funny because I was a college athlete, I played lacrosse in college, solid football player back in the day too, and I thought I was going to go out there and be like the guy, right? And I quickly realized that I was not. Like my first day was pretty rough, but I think what I explained at Final Tribal is exactly what I leaned into. I wanted to not check boxes because that sounds reductionist, but I wanted to play a well-rounded game, pop up and win challenges when I needed to, maybe get an advantage here or there, and socialize. I had a lot of relationships. And so average men are underrepresented on TV, Phil, and I just felt I needed to do it for us. And I hope that I'm a good representative for you. Thank you.
You are. You're a little bit taller, still a little bit more muscular, but I felt like it was good representation. I think if I'm not mistaken, you have the earliest successful idol play out of any winner in Survivor history. So I think you do. I could be mistaken. This is a quick fact check. AI could be lying, but I feel like you do. And so I have to ask you, when so early in the game you hit that swap, and you get to this point where it's just you and Camila, and you have the other three guys, and it's the California girls. It's a good, strong alliance. Were you worried even after playing the idol successfully of okay, what is this game going to be? Because this is happening to you, what, 6 days, 7 days into the game?
Yeah, I was so pissed. I mean, I was livid when we won that challenge. I was livid after I played my idol because I felt as if I had this thing going where I could manage my threat level. But the moment you play an idol, it goes through the roof. The cool thing about the idol play was this, right? We get there, Camila starts this ruse and I pick it up and I go with it, right? But I think what people didn't understand was what happened after the fact, right? I play my idol. You see me play it in the most average, bland fashion. I say, I saw season 46. I trust you guys, but I'm playing this. In reality, of course, I knew they were writing my name down. And what was driving that strategy was whatever advantage Thomas might have, it could not have come out. But when we got back, And Camilla and I didn't have time to talk about this. I made sure I was the first person who spoke in that group. I said, hey, sorry guys, I don't know what happened, but somebody went through my bag because I'm OCD. Of course, Camilla just told me. And I got scared. So I played my idol and I ran up to Camilla, and this is a lie, of course, but I said, I'm going to play an idol. I'm going to show it to you. You can either vote with me or it's going to ricochet on you. And that's what we sold. And that's what allowed me to sort of continue because like nobody wants to think that they've been fooled. They want to think that like it was an accident. And nobody cared about it. I got to the merge. I said I played an idol. I won a challenge, and like for whatever reason, people were like, "Hey, be in this alliance with us and like go to the end." So I was like, "Cool," and like I enjoyed it. Like that's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to ask about that moment before we really dive into the post merge, and we'll try to keep it PG here because I might have heard other interviews earlier. But why Thomas? Why did you pick Thomas over Joe or Shaheen in that moment?
I it was the advantage. So like here's the deal. Joe, Shaheen, and Thomas, to be put on a tribe with them, like one, we never thought we were losing a challenge. But like what was very apparent is that they were all incredibly threatening players in a lot of ways. Like I think all of the podcasters, when we got put on that tribe swap, were like, oh man, I don't want one of these people to go home because these are like all dynamic people. Thomas, like I'm sure if you've met him in real life, the intelligence oozes off of that guy. And like would I have loved to like work with Thomas moving forward? Absolutely. But the advantage is what drove everything. The fact that we had that information that if something, he has something in his pocket, I play an idol and now we're 2-2. Why on earth would we leave the guy with like an extra vote, a steal a vote, whatever the hell he had? No.
And you were just assuming he had something because you knew he went on the journey, right? He didn't actually share with you what it was, right?
He didn't share anything, but this credit to Camilla. Star, if you remember early on in the season, had told Camilla what
Mhm.
happened on that journey. And Mitch corroborated exactly what happened and he showed us an advantage. So we knew Thomas was lying to them. And we knew he must have had something or he didn't have a vote. And so that gamble, you can't leave him in the game because if we go 2-2 and they actually think Camilla and I are working together, then Thomas can just pop us with whatever his advantage is after
Mhm.
we're left. And then I'm done.
Yeah. So let's go kind of post merge now and let's start talking about this because I feel like this is when you and Camilla really started to take over the game and started to play a really subtle but dominant game. And I want to start with this David move. And so what was so important about getting David out of the game for you?
So here's the deal. What is so interesting is that David and I were actually number ones. From day one on Siva, David and I were like this. And we formed that Siva 4 alliance. That meant a lot to both of us. So when we got to the merge, I actually wanted to do this Siva 4 alliance plus Shaheen, Joe, and Eva. And then we would pretend that we weren't working together as a Siva 4 because Shaheen and Joe had agreed, like whoever comes back, Christy or Bianca, we'll take them in. David's and I's kind of vision separated a little bit because David was more so leaning towards this strong five thing.
Mhm.
And that booted Camilla out, which was obviously a worry to me. But at that time, I was still closer to David. When you see David bring up that Shaheen and Camilla are working together, I was like, oh my gosh, has Camilla been lying to me this entire time? And I had to go fact check with everybody on that island. I was exhausted if you see me in that episode. I realized that Camilla wasn't working with Shaheen. And so in my mind, I'm like, David has to go because I have an ally who was telling me false information. Mary was throwing my name around left and right. At one point, I went to take a piss and Mary said I was making fake idols and all this and that. And like people were throwing my name around. And I was like, this has got to stop. So I was like, David has to go home. And that in reality is what made me and Camilla so much closer. Like we had already realized we had this great strategic partnership, but I really think it was that vote which was really hard, by the way.
Mhm.
Like David and I were like best friends out there. But that's what pushed me and Camilla closer together at the end of the day.
So were you paranoid with the mean mugging? Did you think it was at you? Because I know when we talked to Camilla, she thought it was Joe. But did you think that he was looking at you, being like, I'm pissed at you, David from the jury?
Yes, of course. I mean, like, and like David, like, again, like David will tell you as much, and I'll tell you, like, David was my number one. And so,
Mhm.
like, I think people think that like the jury was looking at like just Joe and Eva in this way, but they were looking at me that way too.
Mhm.
Like Cedric, I was close with, like he was in my plans, and like the split came that way. Like when Cedric got voted out, he looked at me. He told in you guys in the confessional, he's like, I trusted Kyle. I
Mhm.
trust him. I think I can. Chrissy, like I spent time with her. She was in my alliance. People were eating tacos or playing this ball game.
Mhm.
It was me and Chrissy, and I knew she was going home, and that's on me, right? And so yeah, I knew that it was directed at me, and the only person that people weren't really pissed at was like Camilla and Mitch,
Mhm.
and that was the beauty of their game in a lot of ways.
So do you think that you could have beaten Camilla and Mitch, or were you really concerned about sitting next to them at Final Three?
I mean, well, so like, here's the deal. Everybody was concerned about Mitch. Like, like, if you really look at what happened on Mitch's tribe and like how he was pulling out these challenges, and like, we're sitting there on the island watching him do this, right? Like, it's scary. And Mitch is an incredibly likable human being. We had a great relationship. We were working together throughout the game. So like, of course I was scared of Mitch. Like, he's just like an incredible guy. And anybody who meets him knows that. Camilla, I think it's more so from a strategic perspective. We might bump into the same problems that Joe and Eva bumped into. Joe and Eva played phenomenal games. I know it because I was in an alliance with them and I watched it. People don't know Eva's game. She was crunching numbers every time we got together. Like, I can't play safety without power here because this could happen if somebody plays a shot in the dark. That was Eva's role. And like, so her revealing she has a PhD makes so much more sense. So I
Mhm.
know their game, but like, they couldn't differentiate from one another in the same way that Camille and I would have ran up against that same problem if we were sitting together. So does that make sense?
No, that totally makes sense. And so here you are, you're watching the show back, you know that you've won the game. And you're seeing the reaction of people going, "Why is this guy dumb enough to keep Joe and Eva in the game? What is he doing? He's going to lose." And so what was it that we weren't seeing that made you so much more confident that like I can beat Joe and Eva, I can take them down? Because from an edit perspective, most people are like, "Kyle, what is wrong with you?"
Yeah, it's weird because I think a lot of what I perceive to be criticism is the overlap between emotion and strategy in the game. And I tried to thread a needle to where like I felt I was doing right by myself to win the million, but also like keep these relationships. Joe and Eva and I had an extremely close relationship, right? Like, Camilla is my strategic partnership, but like, I talked to Camilla for 30 to 45 seconds a day in the woods. I would run, like, find her, like, bing, bang, boom. It was efficient. Just like what you saw in that episode 4. You saw pretty much every single conversation Camilla and I had throughout the game. Maybe you missed one or two. Um, but like, at the same time, in real life, I downplay my accomplishments sometimes, and like, I wasn't going to do that out there because to me, what's odd is that like, you've seen players like me get booted. You've seen Caleb go at the merge, and somehow, some way, at this point in the mid merge, I had just played an idol. It's the first successful one we've seen. We didn't see season 47. I've tricked these people to be in the majority alliance with them. I win the first challenge. I have the most working relationships on the idol, and yet people are telling me time and time again as they're leaving that Joe's going to win the game. That's very frustrating to me because I thought by the time I got to the merge, if I just get to the end, I can sell it. But I've seen the Omers, the Ricards, the Jessies go out around the 5 or the 6. So I have to be patient about a move if I think I even need to make one. And then I've seen people like Austin and Charlie who have played good games, but the juries are receptive to different stories. Like, you have to be able to sell your game in different ways. And they did a great job, but you really have to think, how are you going to do it? And so to me, I was like, I will give the jury one more concrete piece of evidence if that's what they need. I'm proud of the game that Camille and I have played already, but I'll give them something concrete so nobody can criticize the game that I played. And I think that's what I did.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And I think it was subtle, like I said, subtly dominant, right? And the last question here I have about gameplay is just you have Shaheen's moment here where you vote Shaheen out. That was like it felt like the most convoluted, complex situation. Did you truly feel like that was the only way that you were gonna be able to pull that off?
So what's so interesting about it is that Shaheen and I, like, as you saw, Shaheen had brought up Eva's name, he brought up Joe's
Mhm.
name. I talk about like the moral license to like do things. Shaheen was an incredibly dangerous player, like absolute dragon on our season. And I saw the way that he was playing because we were playing similar games, like the middlemen. What we wanted to do was this, and why it was so convoluted, they couldn't really show everything. Part of the idol lie is telling Joe, listen, dude, like, Joe and I had a close relationship. I was like, listen, bro, that I couldn't have him tell Shaheen about the lie. So I explained to Joe, if you tell him about this idol, do you understand that if he plays an idol and Eva plays an idol, it will ricochet and I go home. So I'm trusting you right now, bro. I could have just popped Eva, but I'm
Mhm.
trusting you in this moment to not screw me over. And Joe's an incredibly intelligent human being. You don't think he would have been like, hey, dude, like, what's up with this idol? Him and Shaheen were day ones. But like, Joe and I, like, you heard me call my brother out there. I'm like, that's real. And he still is to me, in a lot of ways. And like, so and Camilla and I had this whole thing worked out where Camilla was initially going to write down Eva's name to make it look like Shaheen for sure had done it, because Shaheen wanted me to write down Joe or Eva's name. We would do a tie, and then Shaheen would go, hey, like, guys, I'm sorry, I'm not going to Rocks. And that's why in the show he says it would be the ultimate trust move. In
Yeah.
my mind, I'm like, I'm absolutely not writing down somebody's name at your whim. But just in case, I don't know what Shaheen was actually going to do. Is he playing with me, or does he actually want to take out Joe or Eva? So I told Camilla, you need to write down Eva's name. But we were just going to pull it off. Eventually, Mitch got brought in. I think Joe maybe told Mitch we're going to write Shaheen tonight. And that's when Camilla had to pivot and write down Mitch. So it was convoluted in a lot of ways. They made it just look like, Kyle's making up an idol lie. Like, what does that do? But like in reality, it's the only reason that move worked.
And it probably was the game-winning move. And again, not average, right? Kyle played it, lean into it because there's no way most people are coming up with that one. I really appreciate you taking the time here. I guess my last thing is just, what's your biggest takeaway from this? You won the game, but like, what's the biggest thing for you?
Yeah, I mean, like that's tough. I think people have heard enough of me about being vulnerable, so I'll say this. I mean, like I threat management was like the game that I wanted to come in and play, and I think that I did that. And that game gets really, really scary as you're getting close to the end. And you've seen it time and time again when people maybe don't have the chance to articulate what they've done in the game. But like I was proud of it. You're right. Like I don't own things in real life. And sometimes I downplay my accomplishments at the risk of being non-confrontational, at the risk of like being criticized. But like I'm gonna own this. Like I'm proud of the game that I played. I was proud of it before certain votes, and I was proud of it at the end. And I'm so glad that the jury was receptive to me and understood what I'd accomplished in the game that I'd like played with everybody. So I don't know if that sounds convoluted in itself, but I'm just glad that it worked out for me, and I hope people see the vision.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time here, Kyle. I really appreciate it. And congrats on the win.
Thank you so much, dude. So great. Maggie says hi. You're one of her favorites. So very, very excited. Thank you for having me on, Bill.
Thank you.